Hi, Daniel D, Ventriloquist here, and welcome back. And Hadley, this time we were going to talk about how to use multiple puppets, weren't we? Yeah, we were, yeah. What does that mean? Well, it means using more than one puppet. Alright, yeah, okay. But before we do that, I just wanted to mention something about rods. Now, rods, it was E. No, rods are these things on the end of your hands. Now, I don't like Hadley to hear this, but Hadley can't actually move his hands by himself. No, I can't. I don't know why. Well, I'm not going to explain why. And that's why he has rods. Now, I have to admit that normally when I use puppets, I use one rod, and I use it on the opposite hand to where I am. And that gives a good range of movement. He can move his arms quite a lot, up to his head, out to the side, which is great when he's singing. Out to the side, onto his tummy, his heart, if he's singing a sloppy romantic song. And having a rod on one hand gives me a lot of control. However, when I started doing puppetry, not ventriloquism but puppetry, I learnt from the beginning to use two rods, because that gives you even more variety of movement. You can move both hands together. That's a slightly different skill, and you very rarely see it. I've got a good friend, Max Fulham, who uses two rods on his puppets, and it gives you a lot more variety, a lot more range of movement. So you can do things with both hands, and it's so you know he can use both hands on his head. He can put his hands together, spread them apart. But when I find that when I'm doing performing vent, it's a little more tricky for me to do that, so I prefer to use one. There are times when two's great, and that's something that you need to practice with and become comfortable with. But I certainly think that one rod is really useful. You don't actually need to use any, and I'll show you with Tilly in a second. I often don't use rods on Tilly because of the way she performs with me, and because her hands are a slightly different shape, and I find that using no rods on her is just as useful. But have a think about how you might use rods. Most puppets will accept rods on their arms, and most puppet manufacturers will have an option to have rods or not, especially the more expensive puppets. But that's just something to bear in mind, and it just means that his hands, Hadley's hands, are slightly more independent from me. I know it's blatantly obvious that I'm operating this arm by holding the other end of this rod, but even so, it creates the illusion, we're used to that word now, that Hadley is doing things for himself. And in fact, I've got to let you into a secret. As I was setting this up, Tilly, who's on the sofa next to me over here, slid off the sofa of her own accord, and it scared the life out of me. But anyway, puppets don't usually do that. So let me just put Hadley down for a second over here. You come over here, Hadley. And I'll swap you for Tilly. And now Tilly is my girl puppet. There we are. Now Tilly is very rarely used with rods. She does. I will use rods sometimes, but very rarely. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Oh dear. What's wrong? My voice is a bit croaky today. I know. Well, it's not your voice really, it's mine. I've got a bit of a cold, haven't I, this week? Yeah, I'm glad I haven't. But because of the way Tilly's arms are made, they've got a really nice elbow joint here and quite firm padding in her wrist, and in her, actually her upper arm's a bit softer. But that means that I can hold her hand, her wrist, at the elbow and still give her lots of movement. Now I know that hand is at the same side as I am, but even so, I can give her lots of movement. Yeah, and so you don't have to use rods, but that's just an option. If you're not using rods, make sure your puppet still has a range of movement, because hand movements are so useful in presenting your puppet to your audience. And just a simple hand movement, or a yawn like that, brings instant humour. Humour, Tilly. I know what you said. Now, let's just Actually, I'll leave you there, Tilly. And bring Hadley in. Hadley's still got his rods on. The biggest difficulty of using two puppets at once is getting the second puppet on to your hand. I just keep looking in the mirror to make sure that they're set up all right. That's why I'm not looking at you for very slight moments. So I got my two puppets here. Now, what's the important thing when you've got two puppets? Did I hear somebody say they've got different voices? Yes. If not, that's the reason. They've got different voices. And they both need to interact with me, with the audience, and with each other. So it's slightly more complicated than just having one puppet, but nevertheless, the more used you are to having one puppet means the better able you are to use two, because you've already got a split personality by having one puppet, yeah, with one voice, yeah, and your own voice, that's two voices. So now you're adding in your third voice, yeah. So Tilly, this is how we do it, isn't it? We often do a song together. Yeah, that's right. I know that it's tricky, isn't it? It is very tricky, Hadley. But we practice, don't we? What, don't you practice? No, not very much. Oh, no wonder we have so many problems. But it's not my fault. Why is it not your fault? It's yours. Why is it my fault, Hadley? Because he keeps me in a box. Tilly, are you quite happy? So anyway, Tilly, tell Hadley it's not a box, is it? No, it's a dressing room. It's a dressing room, that's right. It's a box. Dressing room. Dressing room. Box. Now you see, Hadley, that's a big mistake that we often make. What? You used the wrong voice. No, it's not the wrong voice. It's an impression. I'm quite good at doing impressions of Tilly. Is that right, Tilly? Well, he tries, yes, in the dressing room. Oh, I see, does he? Do you want me to show you? Yes, please. Yes, well, here's my Tilly voice. Oh, it's a bit croaky though, Hadley. It's not quite Tilly, but it's not bad. So, I'm not going to do anything fantastic now, but what I'm saying is that if you've got two characters, practice swapping voices. It looks really great on stage. I sing a lot, as I've indicated, and if I do a song with three people, it's lovely to bring two voices in, two different voices, and my own voice. Bit more complicated, but as I say, I think the hardest thing is to get both puppets onto your hands. Once you do that, you're away. Now, of course, the other thing, Hadley, you go and... Actually, Tilly, Hadley, you lie down there for a second. I'll get Tilly off. You can go over here, Tilly. Please don't fall off again, because it scares the life out of me. And you come over here. Now, the other thing, of course, that you might do in your acts, because most of us do, is to use a human mask. Yeah, human mask. I like human mask. I know they're great fun, and it's a great way to interact with the audience. And I'm going to let you into one of my secrets. If you've been really nervous about your show and you're not really sure how well it's gone, leave the human mask towards the end of the show, bring it in, member of the public from the audience, up on stage, and even if they're as wooden as a plank, you'll still get laughs and you'll still have a lot of fun. And that's what your audience will remember, the human mask and their friend that went up on stage. That's right, isn't it? I know, I've done it actually. What you've done what? The human mask thing, you know. You touch it on the head and then you talk. Clear your throat, Hadley. Cover your mouth. That's better. Yes, that's right. And what I like to do is have Hadley on one side, human mask on the other with a person, and get them to sing a song, and Hadley will sing it with us. One rule of thumb that I always use when I'm working, especially with children, but when I'm working with any member of the public, is my job is not to make the member of the public look stupid. They'll do that themselves. But my aim isn't to make them look stupid. It's to entertain everybody. And if I have somebody that's willing to come up on stage, that's right, isn't it? If they're willing to come up on stage, then they're obviously game for a laugh and a bit of fun. So make the most of that. and help them to enjoy themselves up on stage, but don't set out to make them look stupid, because you want to be remembered as somebody that everybody enjoys seeing and wants to see again. Now, really, that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the end of this course. We've talked about the alphabet, how to pronounce the alphabet. I've given you some good tips on pronouncing the difficult letters and the harder letter combinations. We've talked about interacting with your puppet characters, making them come alive as soon as they appear on stage, or even before, because your puppet can talk from within its box or bag or case. Yeah, that's a good idea, isn't it? I don't know really, because how would you know that? Well, I'm... yeah, sadly. Not too bright sometimes. We've talked about how to use more than one puppet character. We've talked about how to interact with the audience and how to use the audience in the show. And as I said a moment ago, it's not about making the audience look stupid. It's about helping them to enjoy the atmosphere in a slightly different way. What we haven't talked about is scripts and script writing. And script writing is a very personal thing. And some people are good at it, some people aren't so good. I find, I love writing my script, and I've always done it. But I find my weakness is when I write a script, and I think other people are like this as well. I'll write a script, and it's funny to me at the time. But of course, the more I practice it, jokes aren't funny when you say them over and over again, are they? And you never know how your audience is going to react. Don't worry about that. And all of us will bomb sometimes and be really successful at other times. Except you. What do you mean? Well, you done all the time, don't you? Thank you, Hedley. And also, the same material with one audience can go down fantastic, and with another audience, they're completely dead. It's amazing. Sometimes with an audience that you know really well, you'll use a joke, and they'll be completely unresponsive, nothing at all. So don't let that worry you. Just get out there and perform. And my rule of thumb, I've had lots of rules of thumb, haven't I? But this is a really key one, and I've said this to a lot of people because I live by it. Every performance you do is just a dress rehearsal for the next performance. Because every time you're out there on stage, you're polishing things, you might change things, probably not on stage, although you might ad-lib something on stage. Sometimes that happens with you, doesn't it? Oh, it does, yeah. It's because you forget your lines. Well, I'm sorry, Hadley, but you don't exactly spend a long time rehearsing your lines. Well, I can't do that, can I? You've never got sunglasses for me. You don't need glasses, Hadley. You've got perfect eyes. They're made of plastic. Yes, they are. But your material is your material, and don't worry about, every performance is a dress rehearsal for the next performance. Brush your material up. If you need to ad-lib, ad-lib. Go home, rewrite things. Ask people what they think. When somebody says to you, "Oh, I didn't really like that. Why didn't you like it?" Don't shy away. Accept criticism and move on. Develop things. Always be developing. I keep, well, these days it's easy. I have an app on my phone that when I get an idea, I'll just jot it down in the app and save it. Anytime when something just tickles me or I think it's funny, I'll write it down, use it as a bit of inspiration. But have fun, play with things. And again, if you write a script and you want me to have a look at it, I'd be more than happy to. Maybe we could even do a little performance, couldn't we? Yeah, we could, yeah. I'll go away and read it. Yes, you read it. And you can perform it. Story of our life. So, just the more, like everything else, the more you do it, the more you write scripts, the better you will be, and the more comfortable you'll be. Ask for feedback from friends, family, and actually people that don't like you, because they give the most critical feedback, but it can be the most helpful. But just overall, learn some skills, practice them. It's right, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Practice them, learn some more skills, practice them, and always be aiming to improve on your last performance or your last rehearsal, your last practice. One final thing, microphones. I tend to use nowadays a head mic which sits on the side of my head like that. I use that because it's always there, and that can be positive or negative. When I, in the past, and I still occasionally do use a mic on a stand, but of course when you turn away from the mic, the audience can't hear you. So if I was turning around to get Hadley or another puppet out of... You can actually lie down now, Hadley, you're not really doing anything. If I turn around to get Hadley or another puppet out of the case, Barks, it's a dressing room, Hadley, my voice won't be heard, so I can't talk. So I use a head mic so that when I turn away, my voice goes with me. And when I started doing that, it was great because I turned away from the microphone, talked to Hadley in his box, dressing room, and everybody could still hear me. However, if you've only got a stand mic, then use a stand mic. I've done that for years, and I still do on occasion, and it works perfectly. So be aware of your microphone. It's there as a tool to amplify your voice. Head mic, great. Mine wasn't very expensive, £120 or so, and it does a fantastic job. It's really easy to use. It will fit into any PA system. So have a think about that. What I would recommend is that no matter what the size of the hall is that you're working in, or the room or whatever, do use a microphone, because you don't want to strain your voice halfway through a gig and lose your voice and then not be able to do things. And I'm saying that as a voice of experience, because I've made the mistake of using Tilly or even the human mask towards the end of a gig when I've been worked my voice really hard and I've wanted to use a falsetto voice and my voice has been too tired and I've got it wrong. And you can get away with it, especially with the mask, because people are just laughing anyway. But look after your voice, warm your voice up before you go on a stage, have water with you, drink water. I was telling somebody the other day actually that when I did a singing course one time, the tutor told us that, yeah, good, have water, cold water, not so good, slightly warm is better, but the best thing is human spit. And she didn't say whether it was yours or somebody else's that you should use. Never quite sure, so I just stick with water. But look after your voice, warm it up well. I've got I talked about Judy Bush right at the beginning of the course. Judy once told me, or she told the whole group I was in actually, that before she goes on stage, she warms up her, not just her voice, but her mouth, because you need to have mobile lips and mouth. You need to be able to move your mouth. So she does lots of stretching exercises, which is perfectly normal to her. Stuff like that. Perfectly normal to her or other performers. But the stage manager, or the manager of this particular auditorium, probably a church where they don't come across that sort of stuff so much, saw her doing this and thought she was possessed by the devil or something. So, but don't let that put you off. Warm your mouth up, warm your voice up, have a little practice with your puppet, and then, in doing so, you're ready to go on stage. Be confident, be well rehearsed, and enjoy yourself. And that way, your audience will enjoy it too. Well, go away, practice everything I've taught you. Doesn't matter how long it takes, a week, a month, a year, doesn't matter. Go and do it and perform, because in performing, you will hone your skills and you'll get feedback and you'll enjoy it. Go and have fun and let me know how it goes. And I'll speak to you soon. Give me a shout. Bye.